before we talk about your story, let's introduce him on the pod.
Yeah, of course. This is Zuma. He's 10 months old. My wife and I got him like last year, and yeah, he's been mostly a good boy, but sometimes he's a bad boy, as I'm sure he will be on this pod and be super annoying. This is his first pod that he's doing, and probably the last because he's gonna annoy the fuck out of me. But we'll see what's up.
All good, man.
Yeah,
all good.
Already ruined the pants. Love it, Zoom.
Yeah, as I was telling you, right? So like, I'm excited to onboard you as citizen number 26, right? Where we're building this town of all these sharp minds, much smarter than me, much sharper than me, right? Trying to shape the future of crypto, right? And like the core motive, right? The core motive of this podcast is that all these people who are building in crypto, right? Founders, operators, investors, everyone, right? I'm trying to get out of that back bias, right? The circle jerk that crypto Twitter has become,
course,
right?
yeah.
And like actually share down the wisdom and the experiences that we've all been to, right? My favorite Anil lore is when we were in Singapore last year and you ended up like performing with Diplo, right? Tell us, how did that happen, first of all?
Yeah. So, obviously a lot of, crypto Twitter and friends in crypto know I DJ. Always been like a big music fan, and like honestly it's probably what's powered me to like work really hard, just because like I listen to sets, listen to music, love finding music, always have been. First startup in college was actually like this music blog called like Soko Vibe, funny enough, that I don't think most people in crypto even know of. But like our claim to fame back then was like we shot a music video for Childish Gambino, which was really cool. Really funny enough, how I got into DJing though was through crypto. So funny enough, we during the NFT mania, we bought a couple of the Delphi founders and we bought this basically NFT, this Zoom is here, nice. This NFT for Disclosure, which got us and 4 friends VIP access to like any show of theirs going forward. Paid a bunch of money for like 140 grand. That's also my PFP, funny enough. I don't know if a lot of people know that lore.
Nice.
So yeah, we bought this Disclosure face and essentially became really good friends with Disclosure, a guy, ended up throwing a bunch of parties with them for Delphi that I'm sure a lot of people know of. And through that, becoming good friends with him, I would always send him songs before like we would go see him or something like that. I'm like, hey, try out this. And he's like, hey man, you're already doing the hard part, which is like finding the music. You should just start getting into DJing. So one day he actually just sent me, hey, these are the things that you need to start learning on and to be like a DJ. And essentially anytime I saw or hung out with him afterwards, he just would always show me a few ropes, show me a few things. And that's how I started learning how to DJ. Through that, back in 2021, Delphi consulting was very big for obviously DeFi protocols, but we became well known for a lot of these big brands and artists. And we didn't love working with them because I think in crypto, like working with crypto people is so easy. You can kind of like, one, close the deal in like a week, but also just like do all the work via Telegram. Whereas we've done a lot of like Forbes 500 consulting in our day. And those are always the worst because like they want pilot programs that you do like 4 months of like calls before they close like, something that's like 1/10 of like what a crypto deal would be. But we answered some of these calls because we ended up being able to like meet a lot of cool people. Like, one of my founders, Kevin, and I were able to like hop on a call with like Jay-Z at one point and like meet some really cool people. Through that, became good friends with Diplo. And yeah, honestly helped him get this gig in Singapore. He knows I DJ, so he was like, hey, let's DJ together. And yeah, the rest is history.
Dude,
so
that's
that was really cool.
Awesome, dude. So let's get into it, right? So you were a finance major, right? After that, you spent some time at Bloomberg, you spent some time at Deutsche doing leverage trading, right? After that, you took the leap of faith and you started Delphi, right? And how the story started, the lore of Delphi, right? Like I feel a lot of people probably know about this now, but you basically ran up 1 million of like credit card loans into what you're handling right now is like $600-700 million in AUM, right? Before we dive into all of this, who is Anil and what's his story?
Nice. Yeah, very broad question. Yeah, essentially like, I always was, growing up, my dad got me very interested in like numbers and finance. We always, like, I remember seeing like the first Apple presentation and, me, even as a kid being like, oh, the iPhone's cool, but like, is this the right thing for like Apple to do? And my dad having like long discussions about it, my dad being super bullish Apple and everything like that. And it just showed me that business was kind of like something that could impact billions of people's lives and is the most scalable way to do not just one thing. I was in between computer science and finance when I was going to college. And I think like, because of that, business and finance was just the way that I thought I could scale like my impact on the world and people en masse. Fell down the, finance rabbit hole basically just because like, that was what I wanted to major in, and got really excited about the promise of like, being in the bank, being able to help provide funding and like, financing for like big companies that everyday people would like interact with and not really realize like their stories or how they came to be and what problems they were facing and trying to solve, as well as like my long-term goal was always to get into venture capital, because if anyone who knows me, even if you don't know me and see my Twitter and stuff, you know I'm like a permeable, very optimistic on the world, and I think everyone should be, to be honest. I don't think like bears ever get, or ever right, really.
Yeah.
But really, like once I started working at Bloomberg and Deutsche Bank, very quickly I realized that I hated the corporate life. I hated my ideas not being judged by their merits, but by like how long I had been at the company. At Deutsche Bank, I thought I was doing something really interesting. I wasn't doing leverage trading, by the way. I was doing like leverage finance, which somewhat similar in terminology, I guess. But like, a lot of it was, what I thought was interesting was like looking at companies that were going through hard times and how to like help fix them. That was maybe 20% of the job. 80% of the job was like understanding these like insane systems that Deutsche Bank had. They had like 16 different systems that didn't talk to each other, politics with like old people. And I just didn't love that part of the job. And I probably got a little bit demotivated early on in my Deutsche Bank career. That's when, fortunately, fell down the crypto rabbit hole with my other best friends who, obviously have become, co-founders of Delphi with me. And we honestly saw this brave new world that we could build this like financial system from the ground up right when we were at a bulge bracket, a dying German bank, like
right.
at a bulge bracket. And so it was like the perfect like timeline where, was getting demotivated on like the route that I had studied and spent all my life chasing, and then realizing that like a lot of that skill set could still be applied to this whole new industry that needed skill sets like ours.